All systems go. Clear for liftoff. What's up, everyone? Tyler Tamboline here, a.k.a. ToeTagginTambo, back for another edition of the Sunday Main Slate Show. Little bit shorter slate this week, but it is Week 17. Feels a little bit like Week 18. We'll get to all that when we get to the game-by-game and some of the injuries and outs and all the other things that we're going to talk about. We have a special crew. We got Hoopster, and we got Hamwich. Hamwich finishing up a breakfast sandwich on this Sunday morning. But Hoop, I'll bring you in first, man, from the dungeon. What's going on over there? It's Week 16, baby. Let's go.
Hamwich on the sandwich. Hoop, apparently in the dark, can't get the lighting right on the road here for the wife's family Christmas get together. So lighting here is not optimal, but at least I don't have a dusty ceiling fan above me. That's the one. That's the one bonus we have rolling for us this morning. But yeah, smaller slate because of obviously the 3-game slate yesterday, the Christmas Day stuff. So 8 games on DK, 9 on FanDuel, and like our guy Kenny had posted in the chat, I mean, it's kind of the first week where weather is pretty substantial in a lot of different spots. We'll definitely cover that. Maybe we'll cover it off the top here and just kind of go through what the situations look like because I have it pulled up here. So it's pretty important. I think it could alter some decisions. It has altered some decisions for me just looking at some of this stuff. So yeah, excited to be here, talk through it, and let's get ourselves into that winner's circle today.
Yeah, big day today. I know, Hoopster, you got the FanDuel final for a 1 in 100 shot at $1 million. So would love to see you ship that. I've got some seats. Some members have some seats into the Mega Ultimate over on DraftKings with the 33-33. And Ham, I'm going to bring you in, man. Looks like you finished that sandwich up over there. Make sure you turn off the mute button, though. Get professional now, Ham. Big time. Let's go. What's happening?
No, that's a Hoops the mute donkey over here. I'll make sure we'll get off that. Hey, Nate's not
right away. Oh, I say you call him out right away. Got to give Hoopster the gears. What?
No,
it's been better. It's been better lately.
Yeah, I was doing a show this morning. Hey, had to get fueled up for the show, man. Big boy slate tonight, and you got the ultimate Millie. Hoops got the final, so yeah, looking forward to it. I think it's a good slate to break down. I think we know where the spots are going to be. Talked a little bit about motivation. We got the weather. We got some dome games that have a lot of pieces that we're going to break down. So looking forward to it.
Yeah, the Goldilocks slate, I'm calling it. Not too hot, not too cold, just right. It's 8 games, 9. By the way, we got Ham and Hoop here. We might as well cover the FanDuel game later on, so stick around. Shout out to Jay Steele and Go Collect. They're in here battling now to get the first spot, but it was our man, Jay Steele, got in there early, 7 a.m. So welcome, everyone. Hit the like on the way in. Make sure you smash that. Make sure you're subscribed to the channel. Lots more good content coming up. PGA just around the corner. But Hoop, I'll kick it back over to you. Grand scheme overview most certainly will include the weather today because there's a lot to talk about. What do you got?
Yeah, so definitely agree with Kenny where it is impactful and probably the most impactful weather slate, I'd say, of the season for a couple of reasons. Well, we have a smaller number of games and so many teams and games are impacted by the weather. I mean, it looks like at least half these games have some sort of weather concerns, which is good and bad. I mean, the fact is you just can't avoid it all, especially if you're playing 150. So it might be a situation where say, you know what, I'm just not going to let it impact my decisions at all. But if you are only making a handful of teams, like 1 to 5, I think you want to factor some of the stuff in. So I'm just going to go through and, we always give credit to Kevin Roth, who does a really good job breaking it down. So I'm going to kind of go off of what he had posted in Tennessee and Jacksonville. Looks pretty significant. There's a thunderstorm rolling through. He thinks there's actually a chance of a delay to start the game due to lightning, which is obviously pretty rare in the NFL. But if that does happen, that kind of helps the weather situation because that storm will push through and the impact of the weather will be tempered a little bit. But 10-mile-an-hour winds, gusts up to 20 to 30 miles an hour, and it gets in that range where, it could impact some of the deeper passes. Indy and the Giants have a little bit. There's some rain in the area, but no significant wind. So not really worried about that one. The Jets and the Bills, looks like there's rain there. And the winds pick up the deeper the game goes. So by the fourth quarter, it would be like peak winds, which would be 15 mile an hour with gusts around 30. In Carolina and Tampa Bay, basically the system that rolls through Jacksonville is also rolling through Tampa Bay. And he also thinks there could be a lightning delay here as well, which would, again, probably be good because it gives a chance for that system to roll all the way through. And then, the saying goes, the calm before, or what is it? The calm after the storm. I guess before and after the storm, it's much calmer. But, after, once it pushes through, it's going to be calm as well. So, the winds would be up to like 30 miles an hour if there's not a delay, he says. So that's something to monitor. Dallas and Philly, somewhat windy, 10 to 15 miles an hour, and gusts could hit up to 30. I don't think we're really playing the passing attacks there, so not huge. Miami and Cleveland, very significant weather, winds, strong winds, so 15 to 20 mile an hour sustained with gusts up to potentially 35 miles an hour. So that's a pretty bad spot for passing. And then even in our FanDuel late game, we have rain and then some winds too with gusts up to 30. So we're looking at 6 of these games that have some sort of significant weather. So again, it's to me, especially if you're doing 150, probably not factoring it in too much. There's just too many spots to avoid. You can't do it. But if you are single entry or 3 max or even 5 max, probably want to factor in some of the stuff. I mean, one little change I made to my player pool, which I'll just let you guys know, is I was looking at playing Mason Rudolph. Probably was a mistake from the beginning anyway. I just shifted that over to Aiden O'Connell, who's playing in a dome. There's only 2 dome games. We have New Orleans and Vegas in a dome, and then Green Bay and Minnesota in a dome. So that's one thing you can kind of do, but hard to avoid it for sure if you're doing a lot of teams today.
Yeah, that's what I'm looking at now too, to see. Ham, do you got anything to add or anything else on this slate you're just considering? I know a lot of motivational factors this week. We're talking a little pre-show, but in week 17, a lot of people looking at that like it's a super meaningful slate for certain teams, for others, not so much. What's your thoughts on that? Anything else just before we get into these 9 games, including the FanDuel late game?
Yeah, to me, I mean, you look at these games, you got bad weather, you got bad teams, you got quarterbacks that shouldn't be playing, and they're all hovering around, 35 to 40 point total. Then you got the best game of the day in a dome at a 48.5 point total. To me, it's pretty cut and dry that Minnesota and Green Bay, you're going to want a lot of pieces in that. We'll break it down as we go, but don't overthink it. It's kind of my thing because, and someone put it in the chat, I mean, that Dolphins game's down to a 33 point total. You got 2 guys that aren't NFL quarterbacks, so we'll break it all down.
They aren't, but they are. They're going to start today in the NFL, but you're right. It feels that way, and it certainly makes it interesting. Let's get right in. I like this one. We got Hotel Hoop. Hotel Hoop was going to break it in. We'll get into the first game. It's going to be the Jets at the Bills, and the Bills Hoop, you were talking about a pre-show, I know, but just talk about it a little more here, is the Bills certainly have something that they're going to go after here, right? There's something that they got to play for, and then Aaron Jones, we'll get to him later, but Aaron Rodgers, I believe, is trying to throw his 500th touchdown, and Devontae Adams said it wants to be him that catches it. So thoughts on this game?
Yeah, I mean, I'm sure that situation is going to continue on where, he's just looking to pepper Devontae Adams. I mean, absolutely nothing to play for. I mean, I've shit on that situation every opportunity I've had, since they made the trade, and it's completely tanked. I mean, at this point, all there is to save face a little bit by just continuing to throw the ball to Devontae Adams. And, that will probably be the case today. It's going to be a little more difficult, though. It's in the weather. It's against the Bills, who have a really good defense, and the Jets are only projected to score 17 points, so a low team total for the Jets. I am, for the most part, not really going to be on the Jets stuff at all, like including Devontae, and just hope that someone in that range beats them. Not really going to be on Breece Hall. Like the Jets for me are a pretty easy fade. On the Bills side, definitely want some Josh Allen. I mean, he can just do it any way he wants on the ground, through the air. I mean, MVP type season. I know a lot of people are saying now Lamar's there. I mean, okay, whatever. Who gives a shit? I mean, they're both having MVP caliber type seasons. Like both of them would be deserving of the award. So, I mean, it's hard. You're really, parsing out small little margins to try to figure out like who the MVP is. Either way, he's having a great season. He can do it, any sort of way in the weather. It doesn't really matter. A little bit of Shakir, a little bit of Kincaid. I don't know what to do with like the Mari Cooper stuff. I know there's some comments. I really honestly do think that they might just be saving some of this stuff for the playoffs because they really haven't gotten Cooper like really involved like at all. So Shakir, Dalton Kincaid, I'm fine with. But I do think an interesting, very interesting running back play on the slate that is coming in at no ownership at all is James Cook. If you're playing a bunch of teams, like I would be looking to get a little bit of exposure to James Cook. They're favored by like 11 points here at home. And we've seen some big James Cook games, like where it's not Josh Allen and it is James Cook at like 2-3% ownership. Like I definitely want a little bit of James Cook, not a priority play, not a core play, nothing like that, but you can get overweight on him by simply playing like 5 to 6%. James Cook. So I think he is the one play that stands out as just a low owned, very high upside guy that I want to get exposure to in my 150 today.
Yeah, how are you thinking about it over there, Ham? Because the thing about the Devontae Adams thing, he caught his number 200, he caught his number 400. They're saying he wants to get it to him. I think you're much better off just to bet the anytime touchdown or bet the touchdown in the first quarter or first half or something like that, where you can put a number on it, because at 7,100, he still has to do quite a bit. And I'm with Hoop. I like the James Cook play on the other side. I actually like Breece Hall at 6,300. Pretty fair price for him over on DraftKings for the amount of workload we could see him get. And even if they get down, it could be check downs and in weather if they're just leaving those spots open. So how are you thinking about this one, Ham? Jets at Bills.
I'll do my best title impression. I'll just look Devontae's plus 135 to catch a touchdown. So if you think he's going to score, do that. Yeah, I mean, let's start with Allen. I like Allen a little bit. I mean, he's just so tough to pair. I wrote up in the slate plan, Allen naked is kind of the way to go. Too many weapons. He can run it in. This Jets defense is not very good. I think Sauce may be out as well. Quentin Williams missed last week, so don't hate Josh Allen. James Cook, he's just way too pricey, especially on FanDuel. He's playing less than like 45% of the snaps. He has to hit those home runs in order to pay off, in my opinion. So I differ from y'all on Cook. And then on the other side, Adams is fine, but hey, I'm not getting away from Garrett Wilson yet. He's only 6,100 on DK, 6,900 on FanDuel, still getting 7+ targets a game over that same stretch that Adams has been playing well. So there's a lot of talk about him being unhappy, him fighting with Rodgers, but he still has more juice, in my opinion, than Adams. Adams is obviously Rodgers' boy, but don't sleep on Garrett Wilson today. Yeah,
Nades brings this up. I think it's so thin on this slate, man. There's just so many running backs. Obviously, you could get there. It's a blowout. It's weather. I'm not saying you can't. I think it'll be so low owned that it'll be the same situation we always talk about, where even if someone has him, they get to victory lap that they got him right. But ask them where their lineup ends up at the end of the day, because it's not likely. Go ahead, Hoop. I
get the call, but it's like, when has that worked out this season at all? Like, the pricing is so soft nowadays, where they just legitimately have to beat running backs that are out there getting all the work, and like those sort of plays have not panned out like at all this season. Maybe on a smaller slate, if you're doing like early only or something like that, I don't mind it. But like those sort of plays just have not gotten the job done. I mean, unless someone has an example, I can't think of one off the top of my head where that's worked out this year.
Yeah, the only one I can remember, and it still did not work out, spoiler alert, but Sean Tucker, the Bucky Irving week, when Bucky got like 24 and Sean Tucker got 30, and everyone's like, oh, see, told you the backup would get in there. It's like he didn't even show. I think he was 6th place in the Millie Maker with the entries, and even after that, nowhere else to be seen in the top 10 or 20. Just not enough people have him, and even when they get him right, they're happy about their diamond in the rough, but they don't have the rest of the build correct because they didn't commit to it. I would say even on early only, it's tricky because today is a 7-2 split. There's only 2 games in the afternoon, so really it's a betting play. For me, you can grab his over and an anytime touchdown, probably get like, plus 750 or something. Like you can definitely get a spot there if you think that's going to happen. Or maybe it makes you think of avoiding James Cook, but James Cook is what he is. He's boom bust. It's going to be a situation where he gets you. I mean, if you look at his numbers, it's 5 to 6 points, or it's 28 or 30. Like he's topping 28 when he's topping it. So that's kind of the thought process on a guy like him. When we get to some of these other spots, we'll talk about it, how it compares. I like Breece Hall. I like James Cook. If you want to throw in and you have a portfolio of lineups, I hate that the weather got there, but like the Rodgers, Adams, Wilson with the James Cook would work and fits everything else, but it's not going to be my favorite spot. So maybe 1 or 2 lineups, but nothing major for me. Titans at the Jags, Ham, and I'm going to stay with you. Thoughts on this one? Being the Nashville guy in Tennessee, you know a lot about these Titans. So talk to me about the Titans at the Jags. Just pulling it up, what's at stake? It's slim chances at the number one pick. That's what these two guys are looking at, but they're guaranteed a spot. It's more about picks and whatnot. What's your thoughts on this one? And then with the weather, of course, as well.
I see Hoops smirking over there. Hoops over there getting compliments, living in that hotel life. Hotel Hoop looks.
I might not leave if I, 20 years younger, less stress. Like, this might be my spot. I might be chilling here for an extended stay. I might see if I can get any sort of deal at the front desk.
No, but this game's gross, and a lot of people are going to go to it, right? Brian Thomas Jr. has just been on an absolute tear. He would be my favorite playing this game. Been a lot of Calvin Ridley talk, and he's been talking about this game means a lot to him. Jaguars were chirping at him earlier in the season, former Jaguar player. But Hoop said in the beginning, right, you got Mason Rudolph throwing you passes. You have the weather. So I don't know about Ridley. I'm going to pass on Ridley, but Tajay Sharp. I'm sorry. Yeah.
You keep loving that guy, the former Titan, Tajay Sharp, but you're talking about Tajay Spears.
Tajay Spears. Yeah. They're both, he's going to come with tons of ownership, and rightfully so. I mean, he's dirt cheap on both sites. He's going to be in play with no Pollard. This run game, though, I mean, I just don't know. I'm interested to hear y'all's take on him. I think I'm going to be a little off, or not have as much as maybe the field. And then it's just, I like both of the Jaguars running backs. We saw what JT did last week, and not that either one of these running backs are Jonathan Taylor, but there's going to be one of them. One of those two running backs, I don't know which one it is. I like Tank a little bit more than ATN, but this Titans team has quit, and it's going to be raining. They're going to feed them the ball. So I'm going to say Tank over ETN, and then it would be Brian Thomas Jr. for me. No Strange for me. I'm not going Strange. I'm interested to hear y'all's take on him as well.
Yeah, the Hoop looking fresher than a mint bush on Christmas Eve over there. Geez, look at this guy. But let's kick it over to Hoop and get his take, because I know he was interested in it before the weather. I don't think he's going to be interested in trying to figure out ETN Jr. or Bigsby for $1 million over there. But give me your thoughts, Hoop, on the Jags at home versus the Titans.
Yeah, the Jaguars running backs, that's definitely a ham sort of play, not a Hoop sort of play. I can't click those names. There's a lot of good running backs. I just can't click that today. Tajay Spears, yeah, definitely gonna just roll with him today in a big way. Should get all the work, pass catching, goal line, a lot of outs. He's substantially cheaper than the other running backs that are solid plays today. So I'm in on that, but the tough part is this, the passing attack. I mean, this looks like probably the worst weather spot of the day, and it is a good comment in here. You want the delay for sure. I mean, you definitely want the delay, lightning delay, and then the bad part of the storm blows over, and the winds are going to be much lower. So that's one thing to definitely look for. Brian Thomas has been just absolutely phenomenal. I mean, the workload he gets is crazy. I mean, they're just throwing him the ball so often, and the price has not caught up on either site. So, I mean, I'm going to be playing him regardless. Calvin Ridley side of things, I'll probably be a little bit underweight on him, but I do like Chig, 3,600 tight end, been getting a lot of work. I think he's a fine option, and these tight ends, less to worry about in terms of the weather. It's typically shorter routes and things like that. So definitely in on him. Two favorite plays are definitely Spears, Chig, Brian Thomas for sure. So 3 favorite plays, and then I'll throw some Calvin Ridley in there. But yeah, no Strange for me. I'm out on the Strange today, boys.
So who do you think wins this game, Hoop?
Oh, gosh. Literally no idea. No clue.
It's okay. The reason I asked, though, this is another takeaway, just digging in through, no tidbits, week 17, 18. I don't put them out there because there's so much randomness. And at week 18, there's not even a lot of content that goes out or first look shows, things like that. And week 17 kind of turned into a mini week 18. But I will say one that I did come across was all this extra Chig work was literally, there's Coach Speak, which I don't go by this all the time, but shout out to Coach Speak on X. And it had a good one. The coach literally said the reason he got the targets was the prevent defense down the stretch when they were losing badly. So they just threw it to him. He's like, they appreciated his work. He came through. He was good with the ball in hands, they said. But the one thing they mentioned was that a lot of his work was due to that. Do you have any just thoughts on that? Because if this game's a little bit closer or back and forth, you may see it be more of the Ridleys or things like that versus Jake. who's getting the targets. I know he's cheap though, so just curious.
Yeah, I mean, so the thing with Chig, it would come down to like how many teams you're playing and whatnot. If you're playing a lot of teams, I think it's easy just to get some of him, get overweight on him. There's a lot of solid tight end plays. We really haven't got to any yet, but there are solid tight end plays on the slate. So if you're doing 150 or even 20, I'd get like at least one team, because there are paths where they lose. I mean, this is one of the worst teams in the NFL. Sorry, Ham, but I mean, I'm sure that's the truth. I mean, this team is absolute disaster. So, even to a shitty Jaguars, they can get their ass kicked, and then, Chig can be there to soak up the targets again. So, I still like them regardless.
Yeah, all good. And I think in secondary stacks and stuff, people will want to try even with weather, they're not going to shy away from a $6,800 Brian Thomas Jr. Chig fits in there. It makes a little secondary stack. You can also do Spears with Brian Thomas. So I've got no problem with that. Let's go to the Raiders at the Saints. Hoop, I'll stay with you. This is one of the two dome games that we get, but man, from a, just overall standpoint of the slate, it's not super exciting, but no weather to talk about, obviously, here being inside. What's your thoughts on this one?
And whenever I see the Saints pop up, I just keep thinking back to after week 2, all the talk, best offense in the NFL, blah, blah, blah. And then they're sitting there at home projected to score 17 points week 17 of the NFL season. I mean, obviously there's injuries and whatnot, but man, this is a tough team to get to today on the slate. I mean, the Raiders side definitely more appealing from a fantasy perspective. If you are looking anywhere on the Saints side, maybe Kendre Miller, maybe Juwan Johnson. I'll probably have no Saints on my teams today, and I feel pretty good with it. Raiders defense, specifically on FanDuel, is going to be popular. They're $3,200, so $200 above the minimum. They're favored, and the team going against them is projected to score 17. Makes a lot work going cheap at defense. But, I talked about it. I was going to be on Mason Rudolph a little bit. I've shifted to Aiden O'Connell for a couple reasons. I looked at I pulled a title. I knew he wasn't going to be on the show today. I looked at some of the props. The props for Aiden O'Connell are actually pretty solid, and I think a lot of that has to do with the guys that he'll be throwing the ball to, specifically Jacoby Myers and Brock Bowers. So I'm interested. Again, it's not going to be like a core type player or anything, but I'm going to have some O'Connell. I'm going to have a decent chunk of Myers, and I'm going to have a decent chunk of Bowers. I mean, he's literally like the only tight end you can spend on the slate. A lot of people are going to want to be going cheap. Yes, obviously, he's going to get some ownership, but it could be held in check because a lot of people are going to be looking to go cheap at the tight end position. So I'm in on the O'Connell stuff. I'm in on Myers. I'm in on Bowers, and pretty much out on the Saints side in full.
Yeah, we talked pre-show about this, but like the Kendre Miller thing is what I would consider. I think it's still a good enough spot. The matchup, things like that are fine, and it's inside, but that would be a twofold. Before I go to Ham here, the thought would be the Raiders D is also going to be extremely popular on this slate at 2,600. I've got some pivot options later I can mention, but just a way to go against it and make sure you're not moving in that direction is if you did want to run this back with Miller, but I think it's pretty good to set it up. O'Connell, Myers, Bowers. There's also a chance, Ham, and I'll kick it to you on this. I'm not sure if you heard, but I think they just sat on the bus forever, like these Raiders, and then their plane was super delayed and they're coming in late. So maybe they do go behind early to like a Miller touchdown, and all of a sudden it is AOC, Myers, and Bowers just chucking inside a dome. It's an ugly dome game, if you will, but on a slate with just 8 games on DraftKings, 9 on FanDuel, and this being one of the inside games. What's your thoughts on this one?
Who said it? But, Bowers, if you look at this tight end slate today, there's no tight end that can do what Bowers can do. He's going to break the rookie record for most catches today. He needs 4 to do that. They have no other options to throw to it outside of him and Jacoby Myers. I think he's set up for a phenomenal spot. No, people don't like to pay it for tight end, and rightfully so. But when you go down this list, like who on this list can compete with him? You have no K. Dotton, and Njoku's out, Goddard's out. I mean, there are no tight ends. I really like Brock Bowers today on both sites, FanDuel and DraftKings. And then if you needed the money, and it's going to be really gross, this is like Hoops, Lil John Humphrey play, Lil Jordan Humphrey.
Lil John, I like that even better. Yes.
Lil John Humphrey. You got Dante Pettis. I mean, 7 targets last week, 5 before that. I mean, it's not great, but he's $3K and it allows you to get some studs in there. I don't hate that. What's your old saying? For $9,700, Tambo, you can get Bowers and Pettis. I mean, Bowers I think Bowers is going to be on the winner day. He's going to get 100 yards. I really like Brock Bowers today because I think he's going to separate from the tight end position.
Yeah, listen to him over there talking about combo packs, like his little breakfast sandwich with his hash brown. And then now he's talking about Lil Jon from the window to the wall. He went Tajay Sharp to Tajay Spears. Now he's moving around on these Raiders. My goodness, this guy is all over the place. But I don't hate this spot. You don't need to play O'Connell. If you play Bowers, you can really, if you think Bowers has a big touchdown day, that works. You can fit in Myers. Just going back here too, I don't have too much more to talk about on this game, but shout out to our guy. Where was he at here? Good comment there that I actually thought about further and liked. Right here. Ridley revenge game, which I don't care too much about that, but the incentive, and then really I don't care about that, but just those are added bonuses to the fact that he's at the wide receiver position as opposed to the running back position. He's $100 more than Tajay Spears, back to him again, that we just talked about, as just a good leverage play there. And again, like I said, if they're in the game, up, down, whatever, even if Chig is a little bit popular at tight end, you're kind of squeezing the middle there and going with a Ridley, who seems like people are starting to come down on a little bit. They're not as high on him as they once were. I do kind of feel the same about Myers, who we just talked about as well. So fitting Myers into your O'Connell stacks is quite easy there. So like the calls so far, like where we're at. Let's move to it. Most certainly would have been up there as one of the most popular games. I do wonder if weather is going to move people hoop on the Panthers at Bucks game to where they just feel much better about moving to that afternoon game. I brought up our guy Nades earlier, who said it's just everyone's going to move to Minnesota spot with Green Bay, dome, late, easy to stack up, injuries with guys like Watson out or doubtful and stuff like that. So what are your thoughts on Panthers at the Bucks, Hoop?
Yeah, I hope people move off of it because I want to be here regardless of the weather. And this does seem to, there is some thought that this is going to be less impactful than the Jacksonville situation. And again, like if we get this delay in the beginning of this game, which seems really possible, like it should be totally fine weather-wise. It's a really, really good spot for Tampa Bay. And the one thing, like the line has not moved at all in terms of the total in this game, and the Bucks are still projected to score 28 points, which is a big boy number. So they need to win. It's a really good matchup against the Panthers. I mean, the Panthers defense is terrible. I mean, they should be able to do it however they want. It can be Baker to Evan. Like Baker's got legit. I mean, this Jalen McMillan guy is solid. Like they're starting to develop a relationship, and he's still cheap. You have Mike Evans. Payne Durham has slid right into basically the Cade Otton role. He's out there all the time. I think it was 7 targets, I want to say, last week, and he is like dirt cheap, 2,900. Yeah, 7 targets last week, 5 for 29. If he catches a touchdown, like he has a huge game. 4,600 on FanDuel, 29 on DK. I think he's a phenomenal play. And then, obviously want you guys to touch give me your thoughts on this one, but it looks like it's Bucky Irving to kind of take over the backfield now. I know Rachaad White had a fumble or something last week, so it looks like it could be Bucky time, and the props on Bucky are big time. Like he's receiving plus rushing yards is right around like 110. He's minus like 175 to score a touchdown. He's got the big boy props today in a really good spot, and he went off the last time these two teams played each other. So it's a really good spot for Bucky, this entire offense. I love Baker at quarterback a lot of different ways. I mean, you compare him with you compare him with Bucky, you compare him with Evans, McMillan, Durham, you compare him with multiple guys, and then you have run backs on the other side, Thielen, Coker, Leggett, I think is fine, and then 2 4K running backs if you want to take a chance on Boone or Blackshear. It looks like Boone's the top guy there, but for 4K puts you in a different pricing range. So this is the game I'm not budging on. I'm staying on it. The total's big. The Bucks are expected to score a lot of points, and they need to win. Like this is a big game. It's essentially a must-win spot for them. So love the spot. I hope people look to pivot because of the weather. I'm staying on it.
Yeah, we're hoping the weather just rolls through, like you said. What are your thoughts on this one, Ham? Tampa Bay at home versus the Panthers.
Yeah, I think you go to the Bucks, you find Bucky Irvin, you hit that lock button on. I mean, Bucky Irvin's the best play on the day, $6,700. He's way better than Rachaad White. We saw it last Sunday. Rachaad White, didn't lose him the game, but had a very costly fumble at the end. But Bucky Irvin, best play on the whole day, in my opinion, at $6,700 on DraftKings, $8,000 on FanDuel. He's going to score. Hoop talked about his yardage. He's the best one. My concern for the Panthers is they lose their best player. Can they keep up? Like, are they going to push the Bucks That's why I would be off like the game stack. But Bucky Irvin absolutely is going to have a monster day. Hoop talked about it a minute ago too. He had, I think, 30 plus points the last time these two teams played 3 weeks ago. Bucky Irvin's in a great spot. Mike Evans would be my second one, and then Jalen McMillan at ownership. I'm not going to have any part of that. But to give me some Bucky Irvin, give me some Thielen as the one bring back. But I don't think this game stays competitive.
Yeah, one thing about it, no way to play the Millie makers today and not be involved with Mayfield. The M in Mayfield stands for Millie. McMillion we got over here. And then even if you're out on Sterling because Sterling Shepard's out, you could play Ryan Miller, another Millie, putting him up in there. Payne Durham's in there. You can mix all kinds of guys on the side. Even if you want to leverage the Bucky stuff, I think you can go like Baker, Evans, McMillan, run it back with Thielen, use up all your wide receiver slots, Coker if you want to put him in there, and then just get into those running backs that you like at the other positions. I think this game's going to be fine, and Hoop's nailed this forever. But, talking about title missing the show, always having the lines up, Hoop just talked about it. When the line just stays the same, it's not moving. These Bucks are scheduled to put up almost 30 points. Don't know how it's going to happen, but I'm going to be paying to try and find out and pick in the right direction that it is going to happen. So I like this spot. I could get to some Bryce on the other side, Bryce Young, but I definitely prefer the Baker side. But there is options to roll with. Leggett going to play, I saw this morning. So you got Thielen, Coker, Leggett. The one quick note on the running backs there, the beat writers like Mike Boone. Does that mean anything? Absolutely not. The beat writers say all kinds of shit and it's wrong. So just
the beat writers had Antonio Gibson starting yesterday, and Ramondre Stevenson came out with the first 3 carries of the game for the Patriots.
That's so funny. Hoop, you've been around forever too. I'm sure Ham, maybe going back, you know this too, but Ross Tucker has been around forever, right? Like you used to listen to the pods. I think he was on with Evan Silva back in the day.
Him and Silva.
So he was the guy that was getting the credit for talking about it. And he was so mad because he was calling the game. So on the show, he kept saying, like, we're going to have to talk to him after the game and find out what happened. And the coach got hit with multiple questions about that. And he just kept saying it was a coach's decision because the first guy to go out after he said that Gibby was starting was actually Ramondre Stevenson. Spoiler alert, neither did anything or matter, nor did the Patriots. But just to talk about it, I thought it was quite hilarious the way it all played out. And that's why you can never really trust fully what these guys are talking about regardless. All right, good one here, Oop. I know you want to talk about this one. I got nothing else with that last one. We broke it down. Let's go to Dallas at Philly. And what's the take here on the Philly side of things? Because obviously Hurts not in this one, but Barkley going after some stuff these last couple of games here. I think it's like what is it he needs for the season record and for the Eagles, the all-time record too? Like I don't have a
to break Eric Dickerson's record.
Yes.
What is it?
I think it's like 289 or 269 to break the record.
So he's got to kind of go off these last 2 games. And I mean, perfect situation today without Hurts. I mean, for a couple reasons. Obviously, don't really have to worry about the 1 yard line stuff with the tush push. I mean, maybe they'll still do it with Pickett, but they'd be more likely just to hand it off to Saquon. So they're favored by 7. They still are incentivized to win. The offense is going to look much different, obviously, without Jalen Hurts and Kenny Pickett back there. They're going to want to jam Saquon down the throats of the Cowboys defense, and I think they do it today. He's pretty expensive, more expensive than all the other guys on both sides. I just personally think he goes off today. So I want Saquon as much as possible. I mean, it is difficult when you get in there and it's a big boy salary, biggest on the slate, essentially. You got to make some sacrifices, but he is in a phenomenal spot. Like the situation with the Hurts injury, all the incentives to break these records and whatnot. Like I think he goes off today. So he's going to be a priority for me, and I'll be fading the rest of the Eagles. On the Cowboys side, no CeeDee Lamb. They still have a bunch of wide receivers, though. Like they'll mix in a bunch of these guys. So I don't think there's anyone in terms of the receiver room that gets the big boost. The guy that does get the big boost for me is going to be Jake Ferguson, 3,700 and equally as cheap on FanDuel. So there's just 2 plays for me. It's Saquon Barkley, spend up, obviously at a position where there's some mid-tier value, and then Jake Ferguson on the other side, I think, is the biggest beneficiary with CeeDee Lamb out. So just those 2.
Yeah, Ham was thinking about Lil Jon still for the yardage over there. 369 over there. It's 268 is what he needs to get the single season rushing record. So just looking it up off Eric Dickerson. I saw the funny, Eric Dickerson saying he's hoping he doesn't. He's a true competitor. Usually those guys are cheering the dude on, be like, oh, it'd be cool if he broke it. Nah, he wants to keep that record. So hoping it stays in check. But I guess kicking it to you, Ham, Ferguson, just as popular or maybe more as Chig. But to me, he's almost in the same spot or better where I wouldn't even care about the ownership because he could fit the same mold of what we just talked about with Chig because Lamb is out. Yes, they still have Cooks, Tolbert, Turpin, guys like that. But if Barkley gets it rolling on the ground and they are up, the Eagles can just sit back and protect the lead because they didn't move on last week due to Jaden Daniels and the Commanders getting the job done against them. So they do got to close it up this week. I think they do. They're going to get that win. But you could see a nice little Barkley-Ferguson mini stack. If you wanted to move off Ferguson, I guess you could take your chances on somebody like Turpin or Tolbert or Cooks or whatever and play it that way. But what's your thoughts on this Cowboys-Eagles game?
Yeah, I agree a lot with Hoop. I mean, I think if you play a Cowboy, it's one of the worst plays on the day. I mean, you take CeeDee Lamb out of that offense. I mean, he makes that engine go. No CeeDee Lamb. I love this Eagles defense. You got to pay up for them on both sides, but Eagles defense is to play. They have a ferocious defensive line, good linebackers. Secondary is getting healthier. And this is not Jaden Daniels back there passing. This is Cooper Rush with no CeeDee Lamb. I think Jake Ferguson, he might get like 7 for 45. And is that enough? Potentially, but it's Eagles defense for me. I wouldn't be surprised if the Cowboys get shut out in this game. And then Saquon, I think Saquon's going to break the record. Maybe not today. He does face his former team, the Giants, next week, which is going to be interesting. So he needs realistically, like 150, 125 to 150 today to have a shot. The problem is they have to win one of these next 2 games. I think they win today. So then next week, they're really not playing for anything, but it's Barkley, Eagles defense, and no Cowboys today. I think they're some of the worst plays on today's slate.
Yeah, well, I'm going to go back to you, Hoop, for just 2 seconds on the same game. I know you already talked through it, and you love Barkley, but like the chat's already mentioning, some people think just the defense is just going to lock in on Barkley because why give that to him? Obviously, the battle and the between these 2 teams always, but also the fact that it is Kenny Pickett back there. Do they just try and make him throw against this defense? Is there any thoughts on that? Because again, people are forgetting maybe how good he is. This guy's doing reverse jump moves over dudes like it's a game. But your quick thoughts on that, because the chat's mentioned it a few times.
I mean, 2 things. Like, obviously, he's had reps in the NFL before, so he's not just like a guy coming in fresh off the streets.
Pickett, right?
Pickett. He has passed. I mean, A.J. Brown, Devonta Smith. I mean, I'd assume even mediocre to below average NFL quarterbacks would be able to get the ball to A.J. Brown and Devonta Smith with one-on-one coverage. So there is some risk there defensively for them to do that. And Saquon can obviously catch passes. He's probably the best pass-catching back out of the backfield. So for all 3 of those reasons, I guess I'm not worried at all.
Yeah, and then other people in the chat, shout out to Beetle Pain, better than most backups we've seen this year. We talked about it a little bit earlier with some of these games, and we're going to get to a game with a backup right now. So, Ham, I'm going to go to you on this one. It is Indy at Saquon's former team. The Giants talked about playing them next week, but we got Flacco. Joe Flacco up there, boy. Wacko Flacco with your boy Lil Jon. Yeah, get that thing rolling. What do you got here? Joe Flacco, Josh Downs look popular. And then Neighbors, Robinson, some guys on the other side. But quick thoughts on Colts, Giants.
Don't really love this game. It'd be 2 plays for me. You said them both, right? You got Downs, who we saw develop a good rapport with Flacco when he was in there. It's more of a DK play than a FanDuel play. And then same thing on the other side with Neighbors. Neighbors should rack up the catches again, but this game's going to play slow. Both teams are terrible. I know the Colts are still alive technically, but I'm not chasing the JT, 3 touchdown game. And I know I had JT in my core for like 19 straight weeks, and then I don't have him last week, and then he goes off. But I'm not chasing that. Interested to hear your take. His price jumped way up, especially on FanDuel. But it would be those 2 receivers I alluded to a minute ago, and that's it in this one.
Well, it's interesting, and I think Hoop will like that as well. I think Flacco, Downs, these guys are great spots, and people like Downs more because Flacco's in. He's targeted him so much. But Jonathan Taylor does have one of the best matchups on paper going against these Giants. They are favorites. The Broncos did lose, so somebody was talking about it here. Just quickly, Hoop. What was it? The Colts could be eliminated from playoff contention before they even play if the Chargers and Broncos win. Obviously, the Broncos did not win. They got every opportunity to win that game, but it did not happen. So if that doesn't happen, I don't know exactly what Indy's rolling for here, but obviously Indy's trying to get this done. So what's your thoughts on the Colts side and then anybody on the Giants at all that you like?
Yeah, based on the predictive model stuff, which I don't know what the scenario exactly is, they have like an 18% chance. So essentially 1 in 5 chance of making the playoffs, which, I mean, it gives them something to play for, and they're going to want to win. It's not like they're going to say, "Oh yeah, no, we're good. We'll just go out there and lose." So like they're incentivized on the slate to win. It's one of those rare situations in the NFL where the backup quarterback comes in and the offense is immediately better. Like everyone on the offense is probably better. And pass catchers for sure. Like Pittman, Downs. Keep talking about this Alec Pierce guy. Is he in? I really hope I think he's questionable. I really hope he's out. It looks like he is.
No, I think he's in. I think he's in. And that's the other takeaway here is he's getting like no ownership, but he's had 2 huge games, all clear.
Yeah.
17, 2 huge games with Flacco.
Yeah. Yeah, it's one of those. If you're playing Flacco, include Alec Pierce because the guy is like it's a troll. Like everyone wants to play Pittman and Downs, rightfully so, and it's been Pierce a couple times this year. So include him if you are playing Flacco. I am playing Flacco. I mean, it's just cheaper than he would be if he had been starting. Like this is a really good spot for him. They're projected to score 24 points, 4,900 on DK, 6K on FanDuel, which is kind of the minimum price on FanDuel for a quarterback. Has legitimate guys to throw to: Pittman, Downs, Pierce, like we talked about, Jonathan Taylor out of the backfield to keep the defenses honest. I really like the Colts offense today. All those guys, Flacco, Pittman, Downs. I'm going to play a little Pierce most likely, and I think Jonathan Taylor is a really good play as well. I mean, the Giants aren't in the business of winning football games right now, and I think the Colts take advantage of that and put up a big number. So very interested in the Colts' entire offense and not interested in the Giants' offense at all. It'll be a fade for me.
Yeah, the Downs Pierce thing. I know Pittman's right there, the exact same price too. $100 less than Downs. Downs by far going to get the most ownership. The thing about Downs is he's got to get a touchdown at least, I think, because it's going to be a similar situation that we always see where it's like a Robinson who's on the other side of this game and Slayton. Robinson might have 7 for 45, and you're like, okay, he's racking me up points. I'll take that at this price. And then all of a sudden, Slayton pulls a Marvin Mims from yesterday, where it's not often when it happens, but when it does, it's for all the points because it's big plays downfield. That's what Pierce is like. You could have Downs sitting there hoping on him with 6 for 45, and you're like, okay, it's pretty good, but get me that touchdown. And then a catch for 30 yards, splash play to Pierce, and then a 50-yard touchdown to Pierce, and boom, that solves that. So projections, the stone, everything will show the right way. It's a median projection. I do expect those to be pretty accurate. But how it changes is when you get these big bombs and last minute plays of the game that Flacco likes to do. And then Jonathan Taylor, I'll just make one final note, doesn't need to do this. We talk about this all the time. I do, at least, especially. Everyone's thinking 200 yards, 3 touchdowns. No way he does that again. You're right. Like probably no chance that happens again. But 110 with a touchdown, maybe a couple catches. How's that shape out for the slate? You decide, but that could be pretty solid on just an 8-game slate with not a lot of places to go. So thoughts on that?
And I'm not opposed to this, to be honest with you. Like Taylor's expensive, but the Flacco with a pass catcher is inexpensive. So you're still going to be able to spend up in some spots with this sort of stack. And there's a little bit of pass catching upside with Taylor. I mean, obviously not like some of these other guys, but he can catch passes as well. So I'm not opposed to that today.
Yeah, and it's little things like this too, like Dan G brings up. Those are, just extra levels to it, like our guy Title would say. If you're playing Jonathan Taylor, I kind of like playing McMillan because most people that are playing an indie guy are playing Downs or someone right there in that range. You can almost double leverage it playing Jonathan Taylor with a guy like McMillan, even though they have nothing to do with each other in the game. It's just building your lineup out and getting a different construction. On the Giants side, real quick, I would still take a shot on Robinson, just if you do need, because there's not a ton of these value play guys. Most of the value guys for wide receiver this week, I'm playing with their quarterbacks. But if you're not on Neighbors, I guess one quick one, Hoop, to you, and then we'll go to the next game. Neighbors, you might have mentioned him quick, and I was thinking about Little John references instead of listening. But what's your did you have a quick take on him? Because he's going to be all good to go by the looks of it.
Yeah, just not going to play him. I mean, the comments didn't seem super strong around him playing. Like, I definitely prefer, if you want to run back, I prefer Wandale over him.
Okay. Yeah, that pick up some money too, right? $2,200 less. Yep. Neighbors was super popular last week though, with Locke in there and did nothing really, kind of in and out of the game, right? Obviously, but he had like 13. So at least somewhat interesting in large field today, or I mean, any tournament for that matter. I just don't think he gets to the full number on ownership, yet people are interested in the Indy stacks. All right, let's move on, Hoop. I think it is the final two games, right? So we'll start with the first afternoon game, which is the Dolphins at the Browns. I'll kick it to you, Hoop. This is an earlier time slot. It's just the way the day works out. There's one early afternoon game, one secondary afternoon game, which is the game of the slate. We'll save that for last and get to FanDuel later. But give us your thoughts on the Dolphins at the Browns.
And this total is down to 33 points, right? Am I seeing that accurately? Is that what you guys are seeing? 33 real points. 18 for the Dolphins. Yeah, 18 for the Dolphins, 14 to 15 for the Browns. I mean, very bad weather here. I mean, windy, like the windiest game on the slate, sustained 15 to 20 with Gus reaching 35 and two shitty quarterbacks throwing the football. Like, I am not clicking a name on the Brown side, and the only name I could potentially click on the Dolphin side is Achane, but man, a lot of his success has been catching the ball in the backfield from Tua, and I just don't think that's going to be available today. And he's priced around some real solid running backs, and I don't know, it's a spot that I might just full fade this game. Very low total. There's nothing that's appealing to me in the worst weather of the slate. So it's going to be probably a little bit of a quicker show today because there's a smaller number of games and some cross-offs, but I am off this one.
Yeah, that's a good call. I'll go to you, Ham, for your thoughts in a second. But just a note on this, Brock, that's one of the things that's nice about the Stone. Like, obviously you can see if you're looking at it, the rush defense matchup there, and that's why the Taylor situation and topic comes up, but it's also price factored in, right? DFS, the salary game that we play, when you have a $4,900 quarterback, all of his receivers less than 5K, and you can even stack in a running back under 8K with Taylor if you wanted, with cheap options on the other side. A lot of that goes away, especially when there's limited games on the slate. Both these teams pass a lot back and forth. You're able to see that. And then if the pace does pick up, it's kind of a awkward pace situation, but that means it could go one way or the other. A lot of times that can flip in a heartbeat. I'll tell you what, get a early Alec Pierce bomb, and that can switch in a hurry, or an 80-yard Jonathan Taylor touchdown. So that's what really gets things moving. And then some of that matchup stuff can go out the window a little bit. Ham, kick it over to you, man. The first of the afternoon games, Dolphins at the Browns. What do you got?
Yeah, not much love for this game. I mean, I really like Jonnu Smith. I wrote up him up in the slate plan. But, man, without Tua, he's tough to get to. I mean, Snoop Huntley has faced the vaunted defenses of the Tennessee Titans, New England Patriots, and Indianapolis Colts, and he went 1-2, hasn't topped 13 fantasy points all season. But he has 4K, so I don't know, could make a lot of things work. But 33 total, two bad quarterbacks, bad weather, no Njoku. I like Jerry Jeudy. But once again, weather's probably going to get me off this game completely. But if you wanted to take a chance, go for it. But with the bad weather and two bad quarterbacks, I'm out.
Yeah, this is picking up huge steam. Everyone's starting to talk about it. It's not sneaky anymore. It was a good spot, even against Tua, if he was going to play, or whatever you wanted to do. If Achane was going to be popular, whatever it might be, everything's changing. So Achane, his ownership is coming down. People aren't as interested in it with the stats coming out. Like, obviously people remember how bad Achane was without Tua. The whole stat with him was when Tua came back, what he does with him. And that's kind of been the setup of what we've seen. On the Brown side, people are happy just to play them, have some savings. And when they can't get to the Raiders at 2,600, they're moving to the Browns. So I like them as a pivot, but I thought, just to mention that as the day went on, it has become a little bit more popular there. I guess, Hoop, you didn't love it. Ham, you mentioned it just lightly, being a big Ravens fan, like Snoop Huntley, get this guy 4K. I don't know if I can avoid it everywhere. So I'm going to think about this one, because Huntley, I like, when these cheap quarterbacks come up, a lot of people just stop there. Tight end, we already talked about it. I like the Bowers call quite a bit from earlier. I wrote it down, make sure I look into that and see what's happening. But Tyler Huntley with Jonnu Smith, and I think I saw some stuff on the Smith matchup, as well as the sort of incentives, the motivation just for him to get there. Huntley could just lean on him. So if you have Huntley and Smith, you still have all the money in the world to do whatever you want on this slate, and you can get a ton of pieces in from this next game, Green Bay, Minnesota. You can get other spots on the slate like Barkley. You can really do it all when you do that still. So I'm going to consider it, before making my final decisions, even on the big 33 milli today with my 5 entries in that. I'm definitely going to think about it. So I think that's it, guys, for the afternoon one, the first afternoon game. Let's get to the final DraftKings game. We will get to FanDuel just in the spirit of time. We've got extra time to Hoop's point, but Hoop, I'm going to let you start this one. This is definitely the premier game on the slate. A lot of people talking about it. It's a target game for us. The back and forth, there's a million different ways you can stack this thing up. Packers at the Vikings. Vikings, big time spot here that they need this one. What are we doing with the Vikings at home against the Packers?
The one thing here,
the Millie mute button. The
Millie mute, baby. Millie mute. Let's go. It was quick too.
For the Millie on FanDuel. Maybe that's what it is, but it was quick. Go ahead.
Yeah, I heard you say FanDuel, Millie, so I had to, hit the mute real quick, and it was only a couple words, and then I caught it. So we're good. But this is the game where if you want to avoid, go to a good game that avoids all the weather situations. This is it. Does the field do that today? Probably. I think we see ownership increased a little bit in this game for that reason. People are going to maybe get off some of the, Buccaneers stuff a little bit, get off that Tennessee Jacksonville game a little bit, and this is a spot to come to. There's so many ways to go about playing this game. You have two quarterbacks in play, Love and Darnold. Darnold's going to get way more ownership than Love. I'm equally interested in Jordan Love. You have Jacobs, Aaron Jones. Aaron Jones probably gets more ownership than Josh Jacobs. I'm just as interested in Josh Jacobs. The pass catchers on the Packers side without Christian Watson, I mean, all these guys get a boost. Wicks, 3,900, very cheap. He has had big games with Christian Watson out. Dubs gets a boost, and then Jaden Reed a little bit as well. Get a boost as well. Pass catchers on the Viking side, Justin Jefferson is kind of getting back to what we saw out of him the last couple seasons, just going off. He's gone off the last couple games. Addison, big upside. It's really just those two. Both solid plays, and then you have two tight ends that are in play, Tucker Kraft and TJ Hawkinson, both very solid options. I mean, this is one of those games, though, regardless of what the ownership ends up being, it's okay because there's so many different plays. Two quarterbacks, two running backs, 5 wide receivers, and 2 tight ends. So there's so many different ways to go about playing this game where it doesn't matter if it gets a little more popular. It's just a good spot to be. So in on it all around. I mean, overstack situation, single stack, you can do everything in this game, I think, and that's what makes it so appealing. You have all the positions covered as well. It's in a dome. Vikings very incentivized to win. I mean, obviously having a chance at the number 1 seed, and then the Packers not as incentivized, but they could be anywhere from like 5 to 7. So they'll come out wanting to win this game, which is reflected in the line. I mean, they're only a 1-point underdog on the road here. So it's a very, very good game, very appealing. I'm going to have a lot of it.
Yeah, Alex comes in with the dagger. This game is going to disappoint a lot of people. Certainly possible, but
you can say that about any game. I mean, there's no guarantees, man, in this. There's no guarantees.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are going to have this left over on their plate and have to make some decisions. Remember, this game starts 20 minutes later than the Miami-Cleveland one if you are looking at some late swaps and things there. But I will say, Ham, kicking it to you, the thing is, do you think the ownership holds up as it is? Because the D in Darnold stands for doubles. We've seen it plenty of times this season. You can play him with Jefferson, Addison, and shout out to the doubles. You can play Dobbs on the other side, Doubs. You get him in there and just complete the wide receiver position. Just go Darnold, Jefferson, Addison, Dobbs, and others are playing Wicks there. He's more popular. You'd pay up a little. Kraft is in a great spot. But do you think this ownership holds up on the Packers side of the ball with the way this slate has started to shape out with weather? That would be my question.
Yeah, I do. I mean, you see it. The Vikings coming in almost double the ownership. I think that stays the same. I mean, we talk late swap, but you really can't late swap because there's 7 games. So your guys are going to be already gone, and you're not going to play anybody in that other late game. So I don't think there's going to be – I mean, technically, yes, you can, but you're not going to have the opportunity to. I love these Packers today. I love this game. This reminds me of Week's Hoop Millie win, right, where he had – 5 or 6 guys from like the Detroit and Seattle game. It's like you got all these guys, you got all these games with bad weather. You have 2 very good offenses in a dome that have a 48.5-point total. I don't hate the onslaught here, especially for smaller contests or even a Millie like that day. This is I'm not gonna say this is the only game, but in my opinion, this is the closest game we have that can get to 60 real life points. And you're going to want a piece of it. Jaden Reed being my favorite. Tucker Kraft, I really like. And then obviously, Jefferson and Addison on the other side. I think this game shoots out, and I think this game is ultimately on every Millie winner on DK.
Okay, that's a bold call, and I think it's not because of the game. I mean, just in general on every winning lineup, like you're talking about, that would be awesome to see. But I think this is, like Hoop said, everyone's going to say the same thing, like, oh, it's getting popular, it's tough to do, but there's a million ways you can go. Was the main point? It could be Jacobs at 8,100. No one's really going to want to go there. Jaden Reed at 5,900. There is some late swaps within this game if you're down. Like I think it's Kraft with either, if you have Kraft with either Addison or Aaron Jones at 63-62, I think that can be flipped to Hawkinson, Jonnu Smith with the earlier afternoon games. There's little things like that. If you are behind, there's still stuff that you can look at. But I do think that it's going to be a good spot no matter what. And I like the overstack. When we play showdown with a team like the Packers, it's oftentimes where we're very comfortable with a Love with three of his dudes. Reed, Dobbs, Wicks, Kraft, pick three and do it. I know everyone, you got to put him with two. There's going to be, if this is the game, like you talked about, there's going to be some disappointed people that just went with the standard 2-1 or something like that and are wondering, oh man, but this guy, I look behind and this guy still has three more guys than me in this game. Hoopster knows what that feels like, riding it all the way to the top, which he's trying to do again today over on FanDuel. So it is a spot like that, Hoop, where people are going to look back and see overstacks behind them. What's your thoughts on just closing out the DK slate?
Totally agree with you. And another name to kind of throw into this mix that just has to go a little overlooked. He's going to get some ownership, but Jaden Reed, people are going to Dubs and Wicks for way cheaper, no matter what. And I think Reed has a chance to get a little bit squeezed. So I like Reed, but that's one of those situations where if you can make some swaps, if you have a lot of this game, and you need to catch up, you can swap to a guy like Reed. Like, you're not going to be able to, like Ham said, build teams to look to another game at 4 p.m. Eastern. Like, you're just not going to. The Browns and Dolphins offer nothing in terms of that. So it's got to be within the game. But just in general, lower owned piece that I think can get squeezed a little bit is Jaden Reed. Stands out as a pretty strong option.
Yeah, and I think the other thing too, last thing I've got is just if you do go like a Love, Reed, Kraft with Addison or Jones, you can keep the balanced build where a lot of people are looking for home runs here, right? They're looking for Jefferson. They're looking for Darnold, Jefferson, Addison with one on the other side, like all of that. So lots of different ways you can shake it out and ways you can move it around in the afternoon, but it's all going to be decided by what your running backs do in the morning. Not many on running backs here. I like the Jones side. I think Jacobs is an interesting spot because he's 500 less than what was Saquon? 86, right? 500 less than Saquon, 200 more than JT. And again, people may or may not go there, but he's definitely an option on this slate. So at 8,100, if you've got a flex left open or something like that, that would be a way you could get different in the afternoon, even within the game, if you got to move pieces around. Ham, any final thoughts on the DraftKings slate before we go to the last game of the day, the FanDuel Falcons at the Commanders?
Yeah, no, nothing for me on that. Good luck to you today, Tambo, and everybody else out there. In that, what is it, 2 milli up top?
Yeah, someone said I'm getting my milli. I'm trying to actually do the unthinkable. I'm trying to win. I've been in many live final rooms and dinners where literally everyone has the milli maker. I'm always with my guy Hoop. He's got it. And it's like the Shooter McGavin on Happy Gilmore standing around all the gold jackets. And like, oh, yeah, like you got to get one. I'm hoping to win 2 milli before I win 1 milli. That would be epic and just breaking it that way. So we'll see. That would be nice. But anything else, Ham, that you've got? If not, let's talk about Falcons Commanders, and we'll save Hoop for last on that game.
Yeah, nothing else on the main slate, but yeah, this obviously FanDuel's including this Sunday night game have all year. It's another good game. I mean, it's a different piece than DK. You have Robinson, a running back for the Falcons. It's going to have a lot of ownership, and rightfully so. 24 plus opportunities in 4 straight games. Penix making his first road start. Should be some weather there as well. So I really like Robinson tonight. Jaden Daniels is another quarterback that's going to be in play. So that'll lower the ownership on Love and Darnold in that game prior. And then Zach Ertz. Zach Ertz is in a good spot tonight at the tight end position. No De'Ami Brown. Ertz has some incentives if you're into that kind of thing. And then there's really no other, wide receiver outside of Terry McLaurin to throw to. So give me some Ertz at tight end. Give me some Bijan Robinson. And then Nades and I broke this game down for Showdown. I'm fading all the wide receivers for the Falcons tonight, especially Drake London, who left last week early with a hamstring. Those always give me pause, and to come back within a week, no thank you there. So Robinson and Ertz for me in that late game.
Yeah, Hoop, I'll let you talk about it. Is this should be on your slate today, right?
It's on the slate, yeah.
Just the way they do it, I assumed as much. But just reading the what's at stake for this one, it talks a lot about the Buccaneers early, but obviously we've got the Bucs to pound the Carolina Panthers, so they're not going to get their wish. They want the Bucs to lose to have their stuff go their way in this game. But assuming the Bucs get the job done, these guys will have to look at it from that perspective. What's your take on the Falcons at Commanders to round out the slate on FanDuel?
Yeah, both teams are incentivized, so they're playing. Yeah, maybe if there's nothing to play for, Drake London doesn't get out there, but they need to win, so that's part of the reason he's there. I'm going to play him just because I imagine he's pretty low owned, and maybe is close enough to 100%. I'm only playing him really on Jaden Daniel type teams, and I like doing the thing I talked about in the past with like Josh Allen in this game with Jaden Daniels. Like I don't necessarily need to pair Jaden Daniels with anyone when I play him, but I want either a pass catcher for the Commanders or Bijan or Drake London on those teams. Like one of those four I'm good with. So I'm going to build my Jaden Daniels team with either Terry McLaurin, who McLaurin's nuked a couple slates this year, so I definitely want to play him. So either McLaurin, Ertz, Bijan, or Drake London on those Jaden Daniels teams. And then Brian Robinson, I think, is a fine play too, under 7K, 6,900. I think he's solid. So there are plays here. Does this game factor into the winner on FanDuel? It's very possible. I think it is definitely possible. Two incentivized teams, two teams with guys that have big upside on both sides. So there are plays here, and I am interested in this one. Yeah,
you've had the McLaurin calls every week, and he gets 2 touchdowns every week. So maybe that's a thought. Bijan on the other side. The chat was talking about the other Robinson is Robinson on Robinson in this one. Brian Robinson Jr. in a good spot as well here. So maybe that's some of the stuff over on FanDuel to think about. But I think we did a good job breaking it all down, going through it here. Got the stone up. Appreciate almost 700 people watching. Ham, any final thoughts on the overall? Just to get we did the grand scheme off the top. Any final thoughts from you on either slates?
The biggest thing for me is I think it's you're going to have to pay up at running back. There's really no value in my opinion at running back. I want the big boy running backs. I'm not going to roll the dice on the Sharp Spears of the world, on the Carolina backfield. I want the big boys, the Buckies, the Barkleys, the JTs, people like that, and then find value at wide receiver.
Yeah, Hoop, anything else you want to add, man? I'm just going back to look at some of these comments, but anything else you wanted to bring up?
Yeah, it's it's an interesting slate. It's a little bit different of a main slate for a couple of reasons. Smaller number of games and weather for the first time that could potentially factor into the play today. The one thing also with weather though, we've seen it a ton in NFL, we've seen it a ton in MLB. A lot of times it is overblown. Like a lot of times it's not as bad as people indicate, and that has remained true for many years of doing this. So that's one thing to keep in mind. You don't necessarily need to fully pivot off guys in these weather games, and plus there's so many of them. But let's go out there and get the job done today. I'll take $1 million, you take 2, we call it a day, and then Ham, you can ship something along the way, whatever you want to take down. So let's get the job done in a big way today. Big way.
That's the plan. Hope all members over at SHIPIT Nation are coming along as well. If you guys are not a member over at SHIPIT Nation, couple things going on. The single sports stuff. If you just want football, the rest of the season is just $99. Gets you right through Super Bowl. A ton of 2-game, 3-game, 4-game playoff slates, all the showdown. Next week, main slate, breaking it all down and more for all the content for both showdown, main, the stone, the stack rankings, all the stuff there. If you want with the optimizer, ours is Shiptimizer. You can pay $30 more. But the big deal right now, and our guy Alex got it covered here, is PGA is coming back starting next week. You might have saw the big guy on doing some of the shows and whatnot. He was going through and talking about it. But you can get $100 off the annual PGA package. A lot of people taking advantage of this right now, and this is why, because you also get the free all access through Super Bowl. So not just the $100 football-only package included for free, you're getting the all access package included for free, and that's going to get you set up here on everything that we have to offer. So you're going to get NFL, Showdown, college football, the remainder, PGA is coming back, including Showdown, where you see our logos atop those leaderboards quite a bit, with the Stones specifically helping out there. NBA is still rolling. Shout out to our guy Hebrew Cheetah. BJ, those guys doing an awesome job. Ham's in the mix as well. NHL got our guy Nades, and then Title and Marley rocking it with MMA. It'll be back. Couple big ones coming up in the next month or so. So just keep that in mind. $299, can't beat that price. $349 for Classic and Showdown Optimizer. Go ahead, Hoop.
This is the home for PGA DFS. I mean, there's no doubt about it. I mean, this is the spot to be. I mean, on all levels. Like, I mean, don't fall for the sales pitch from other companies where, oh, we got this guy's projections and you have to have them to win. Like, it's just not true. And then that guy disappears and you're still paying the same price tag. Save some money. Come over here. We have you covered on all levels. Showdown, main slate, projections, ownership. I talk about it with the Showdown stuff all the time. I mean, one of the biggest edges we saw last year was from people following our Showdown content because no one in the industry does Showdown like we do. We have a team fully dedicated to each and every individual round, changing the projections, the ownership. Other sites don't even change their projections for round 2, 3, and 4. They just use their main slate projections and just run them all the way out. They're not factoring in the weather. They're not factoring in tee times. They're not factoring in where these guys are in the leaderboard. We have a team of people working on it each and every round. I mean, it's a massive advantage, massive edge, and we're a fraction of the price compared to the competitors. I mean, this is the spot for PGA. We'd love to have you come in our Discord. It's going to be a hell of a season. Looking forward to it starting next week.
Yeah, it's going to be awesome. So appreciate both you guys. Ham, thanks for filling in for our guy Title. Hope he's enjoying his time. Hoop, good luck today, man. That's going to be a fun one.
Good luck.
Beetlebane, the ultimate reminder. Yeah, on DraftKings, it's the last Sunday of the month, and you're going to want to activate that boost to end the year. That's the one. So make sure you hit that up if you have it over there. Thanks to Ryan Chapman and everybody else in the chat. We appreciate you guys. That's going to do it for this one. For Ham, for Hoop, and for myself, ToeTagginTambo. Let's ship it.